it does feel like there's a significantly different tone about his potential at catching Tom Brady based on what happened on Sunday.
It's like, I did not think I'd feel that way, but I feel that way now.
Like there was something about the jump from 3 to 4 to where it was like, oh, this might actually happen. And now you're like, I don't know, dude, because I don't think he's playing that long. Like I don't think he's coming close to playing as long as Brady's.
I just think the conversation opens up that, and it kind of, for my baby that's going in the draft, it kind of was perfect timing for edges and
Ryan
for
Williams?
defensive. Who?
Ryan Williams, the Alabama guy? You said your baby, the guy.
Ryan Williams.
Yeah, what are you talking about? We're talking Giselle Bundchen.
Oh, that's who that is. No, I was talking about Abdul Carter.
Oh.
The thing about it is that, well, if y'all let me make my dang point, I'm going to make my point. Well, what would the fingernail kid be my baby for? Like, that's kind of weird, man. Like, you made that awkward. Like, that, I don't, you know what? I'm walking around holding his hand, calling him my baby. Like, where are you going with that? Where are you trying to go? I'm talking about the idea of defensing Patrick Mahomes. It's like, if you can get a good enough defensive front, you can do the things in coverage that, well, you wouldn't normally be able to do if you don't get pressure on him with 4 men at max. Zero blitzes in the game, and Patrick Mahomes has one of the lowest outputs of offense in his career. So you're now going to go back to placing. If I was going to look for an offensive lineman, or maybe I felt like this year says, okay, maybe I need to value a running back a little bit more, or whatever it may be, a receiver. I need another receiver. That top spot, I can guarantee you the top spots in this year's draft are going to be edges and interior defensive linemen, because what this game represented was a blueprint as to how you can get on top of this Kansas City Chief team, whether you're in the AFC or the NFC. Because in the NFC, they won the NFC and ultimately the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
That's the point I was trying to get to.
Yeah, and look, it's a deep defensive tackle class, so I think there'll be a lot of guys who go off the board first few rounds, and obviously Abdul Carter's probably going to go off the board 1 for a non-quarterback. The only issue with again defending against Mahomes, I think Denver is the first team in the division that actually has a pick, and they pick at 20, and then it's the Chargers at like 22, and kind of on down the line. Looking through it, obviously Kansas City in there as well. But the Raiders are that other team that you'd say, okay, they've got Max Crosby. Maybe they would be a team that we throw into consideration, but they're at 6. Like, I'm not sure Abdul Carter gets there. And plus they need a quarterback. That being said, it does bring up the AFC West as the other team that it feels like there's a little collateral damage here, because if there was ever a time, if you think about this, where Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid had a red ass, it was following that loss to the Tampa Bay Bucks, where they come back, they respond, they're able to, come back and rip off a couple more Super Bowls and kind of reload. And it's not like this team, as much as we want to kind of be down on them, Rashee Rice will be back at some point. If Kelsey comes back, if they have another free agency as well as draft, and they can, solidify that offensive line, this is a group that very much is going to have a red ass coming back to try to win the AFC West, get atop of the AFC playoff picture, and try to get back into that Super Bowl game again. So collateral damage is kind of like the Las Vegas Raiders, who don't have a roster built there yet. Then the Chargers and Broncos that, they're there. They're not quite as good as the Chiefs, but I would say the Chiefs are going to take it out on those guys next year with the way they try to reload and rebound off of just an absolute blowout loss.
Got Jim Harbaugh waiting there as well, too. Thinking he was going to get an opportunity. Denver thinking they were going to take the next step. And now you got KC ready to. And by the way, one of their unrestricted free agents, Trey Smith, there was some speculation that he was going to be on his way out.
Yeah.
After, not that he had a great game, there was one play specifically where he got called for a holding because he got beat so bad by Jalen Carter. But if you're the Chiefs, do you not look at what happened in that game and go, We need to do whatever we can to
heavy.
keep as many
heavy
much continuity as possible.
Heavy O-line. You got to go heavy O-line because if you know that a 4-man front allows for defenses to use their coverages in a more effective way against which, by the way, I mean, when you throw in those names that Q just threw in, it does make it more difficult to defense this team because there's going to be more pass concepts you can use route-wise for Patrick Mahomes. But keep in mind, it was that taking away the first read from Patrick Mahomes that bought those pass rushers just a little bit more time to make him uncomfortable. And if I'm looking at it, that's going to be my scheme going into this season. So I'm loading up. I already got those teams that we said are competitive in the West. You got Bo Nix, young talent in Denver. You can load up. Like if I'm the Chargers, you can load up. We got Herbert. But if I am the Kansas City Chiefs having Patrick Mahomes on my team, I want to make sure I have a steel wall in front of my quarterback so that he has time and he has protection, safety that leads to confidence in him being able to do what he does best.
Did they bring I think was it all 5 new starters following the Tampa Bay Super Bowl loss?
Yeah, that next year. That's why I said, like, they will rebuild, they'll retool, and they'll have a red ass going into this. By the way, the Kansas City Chiefs have about $15.7 million in salary cap space heading into next year. And what's interesting about it is, remember, Mahomes signed that 10-year, $450 million deal. And this is what's happened over the life of the deal, is they have been able to obviously restructure that as they receive bigger cap hits depending on the year. So, for example, Mahomes again takes you to a Super Bowl. Granted, you would have liked to win it. He's Super Bowl MVP. You have a little more leverage in your negotiation, but he has 7 years left on this deal. So unless Clark Hunt is going to be really cheap about it, if you want to create more cap space, you're going to continue to do what they've done.
Just restructuring.
You're going to restructure him. You're going to give him a signing bonus. You're going to reduce his cap hit, which his base salary for 2025 is only $16.650. So you could even lessen that number more, depending on what they want to do. So they may, depending on how, again, they look at this, they may not feel like they need to do much with it, but you can still figure out a way of pushing those numbers down the line because you have the best quarterback on the planet currently in the NFL. So you can refinance with him and create a little additional cap space. The problem for Trey Smith is I think he's going to warrant a contract somewhere around $20 million per year. Like, he played well enough where he's going to cash in as one of the top paid interior guards. So I don't know that they're going to allocate that much just into one position. And it'll be interesting to see where they go in the draft. Obviously, they draft now 31st with the Super Bowl being finished. And you could find yourself with a solid either interior defensive lineman there. That's where I think there'll still be value, obviously, as Chris Jones gets up there in age, or offensive lineman. Like you're talking about guard, tackle, something like that. Both those should be still available at that spot. But, I'd have to look at the free agency list to see who's going to be out there. It's going to be interesting. It really will be to see where they go with that pick. And this is a team that, if you think about any trades that they would potentially make with the start of the new league year, this is a team that you give away sometimes late first round picks because is that guy going to be a legitimate bona fide starter right now for a team that's in a window of winning right now? If your answer is maybe not, depending on how you view those players available, you go deal that pick.
Yeah.
And you say, we'd rather go trade for a guy we know that can come in and start and play right away, and we can take on that veteran contract, and we can make it work within our salary cap space. Like that's how the teams at this spot, that's how they look at draft picks. Everyone wants to say, oh, we're getting them in the first round. Well, okay, it may take them some time to develop. There's no time for that with some of these teams. They want to win right now. And if that's the case, you don't mind giving them a couple first-round picks.
Can I make a prediction here?
No.
Trey Smith, he'll be signing with the Bears.
Okay, I like that.
Because
I like that.
Ryan Poles was there in Kansas City when they drafted him and brought him in. And
plenty of cap space, too.
And they have a big need there. That's something they're going to address. So Kansas City's going to be looking for a new starting guard next year.
Of all the people I listed, the Miami Dolphins, Taylor Swift, Dallas, Gisele Bündchen, AFC West, who's receiving the most collateral damage?
I think it's Taylor Swift. I think it's Taylor Swift because I don't know. I think I will say this: she can turn her negative into a positive by creating an album purely based upon the roller coaster ride of this season and the heartbreak of how the season ended. It's like a relationship, right? Yeah. It's like a breakup, a bad breakup at the end of a relationship. If she turns an album into this journey, I think it becomes a win. But right now,
I don't know why we can't.
Horrible collateral damage here.
I don't know why we can't just keep it football. I'm going to go Giselle. She's going to have to deal with Tom Brady for another 9 years, and there's not there's not enough Brazilian jiu-jitsu tournaments for her to attend to try and
clearly. Well, she's going to be going through some mental jiu-jitsu just to be able to get him out of her head.
That's true.
Clearly, there's enough jiu-jitsu going on training-wise before you even get to the jiu-jitsu competition. Thus, 9 months later comes a jiu-jitsu protege.
You got to watch that anaconda choke. That's a true. That's called a Darce choke. It's an anaconda. That's a true. What are you talking about? That's it.
Put that thing to sleep.
Works.
Get that work.